the chat feature. Go to the chat feature of your phone, and some people just like to hop in and say, you know, hey, I saw Bigfoot yesterday. I know you mean well. I know you're excited, but I would much rather try to answer those questions offline and let the rest of the class keep moving forward. And that way, if there is a question, I'll say, hey, Peter, got a good question here. I need to stop you, and I will stop him. But by and large, there are some things that we can help without having to interrupt the rest of the class. And without further ado, I'm going to ask all of you to stop the video presenting. We'll open it up here at the break. Stop your video presenting like I did just there, and go ahead and mute yourselves if you haven't already. And welcome, Peter Graham.
Thank you very much, Bob. And it's good evening, everybody. I'm going to make my video go away as well in about 5 seconds from now. I'm Peter Graham. I'm a member of the auxiliary. I've been a member of the auxiliary for about 7 to 8 years now. Prior to that, I was born and raised in Canada, and I was with the Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary, and I was with them for 37 years from the day they began in 1979 when I was a young engineering student, and I spent all that time with them. I got transferred for work into the United States, having dual citizenship. I lowered one flag, raised the other, and joined the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, and have thoroughly enjoyed all my time here. So tonight I've got the pleasure of introducing 2 topics with you, and I'm going to share my PowerPoint slides here, and Bob is going to monitor the chat for me as we go along. I'm going to just kind of fix my thing up. So we're going to talk about 2 chapters, Chapter 7, Chapter 8. So thoughts from the instructor. If you were part of my IMSEP class, you would have seen this slide. Quick thoughts for you. It's not a closed book exam. You can have whatever reading material you want for this class in front of you. Use your notes, research it, Google it, whatever you need to do. The goal is for you to pass the test. Don't be afraid to use any of that reference material as needed. If you first do not succeed, try and try again. The National Test Center at the end of the test tells you what answers you have wrong. I think there's 50 questions. You have 3 hours. Take your time. There's roughly over 3 minutes per questions. There is a question pool. Not everybody will have the same questions. And every time you go into that question or into that test, you will not necessarily get the same set of questions each and every time you go into that test. But though, if you wanted to, you can copy your test question, and that will end up being part of your reference material as well if you want to do for the next test as well. So a wise investment is, of course, the Chapman book for piloting and seamanship. It's one of the reference materials that we reference throughout the course. And if you've got a copy, it's been a wise investment for you. So 2 courses we're going to talk about today, or chapters, are the assistance of vessels in distress or damage and control, and secondly, navigation rules. So let's talk about vessels in distress and damage control. So typical emergency procedures you may find yourselves or others in. A vessel could be stranded. We're going to talk about when do you want to stay aground and when do you want to assist. Talking about towing, we're going to talk about man overboard, fire emergencies, leaks and damage control that you may have, and finally, emergency procedures that you may have. So knowing what the wrong things to do is just as important to knowing what the right things are to do. So there could be wrong things that are happening in each and every one of these cases. You don't want to get into dealing with those. So a stranded vessel. First off, comment, do not put the engines in reverse when you get first stranded. The propeller can suck up sand and deposit it under the boat. You'll notice that reference there is in red. That is one of your questions and answers in the student question book that you have. So anytime you see print like that in this presentation, it is one of the answers to one of the questions. So get you high and stranded. First steps, is everybody safe and unhurt? That's the first thing you think about, is safety of people on board the boat. The second one is the safety of the vessel itself. Is the vessel hold and taking on water? So those 2 things will dictate what your next steps are and what you're going to deal with. The second steps, is it better to stay on the ground or is it better to get off where you are? Factors to determine what include factors such as time, weather, and available assistance that you may have to get off. So you have to consider a whole bunch of factors on what your next steps are going to be. To get a stranded boat off, check again, there are no leaks. Check frequently for no leaks. A leak may develop over time and slowly. Wait for the tide to come in. If you're in a tidal area, why do you want to wait for the tide to come in? Anybody want to have a quick guess? Why do you want to wait for the tide to come in to get off the stranded area?
Might float you away.
Precisely. I mean, it's a free assist for you. You may just float away. Can the boat self-maneuver off by retracing its direction coming in? If you went in at one direction, you can come off very easily by reversing coming off of it. It's a lot better to do that than continue on forward and to face unknown hazards that's in front of you, such as more rocks or debris that may hazard the hull of the vessel. A kedge can be used. A kedge is an anchor on line from your boat stranded that can be pulled against or winched off to help pull you off. We got a couple diagrams coming up to show you that. So there's a picture of a kedged anchor that's been taken out. Another vessel can take your anchor out, drop it off, and you can wedge or kedge yourself off a sandbar, if you wish, by pulling against the weight of that anchor. Another way you can get off the bottom is to break the suction by moving people from side to side or front to back. By distributing the weight around the vessel, you have the ability to rock the boat back and forth that breaks the suction of where the hull is stuck to the bottom of the sand. For a sailboat, again, we're talking about the kedge. Take the kedge and anchor line off the main mast and use the line connected to the winch to draw it off. The boat is expected to keel over. That's expected when you do this, and assist in coming off the vessel. So if you've got a kedge, you can see how the anchor and kedge line has now tilted the mast over. That's to be expected, and that's going to help get you unstuck off the bottom of the sand. Other ways to help: take people or cargo off. Weight reduction. 5 last thoughts. If you're going to help, how close can you get? How do you get a line over to somebody? Remember the safety of your crew and vessel if you're going to indeed help somebody else. Pull slowly. The safety of 2 crew and vessels are now needed to be considered at all times. Be cautious of the wind and current. Use it to your advantage and not a disadvantage. So if the wind and current are going to be working for you, figure out which direction that is going to take you and use it to your advantage to help get somebody off. Stay aground if you're holed. If the vessel has a hold or is got a leak in it, your best bet is to stay where you are. You don't want to put the vessel into any more danger. You're considered relatively high and dry at this point, as it is right now. Why put yourself in more danger if you're holed? If the effort to remove will cause more harm to anybody on board, you don't want to be moving the vessel around as well. So stay aground if those 2 things happen. Again, in the back of your mind at all times, if we are under orders, keep in the back of your mind what the Coast Guard policy is on salvage. When no commercial salvagers are on scene, the Coast Guard should only engage in salvage, other than towing, to prevent a worsening situation or complete loss of the vessel. Your priority is life at this point. At times, you may have to help right a capsized sailboat. And this particular works only with a small sailboat. You haul in the sails, you stand on the keel, and you hold onto the gunwale and pull backwards. And if you've ever been near small little sailboats, you'll see that this is actually part of the training program that people get trained to do when they're learning how to sail a vessel. They typically will go over and tip the boats deliberately to learn how to do this. It's scary at first. You go, what the heck's going on? I got all these little sailboats flipping over all of a sudden, but you realize they're learning how to right themselves in a small little sailboat. Towing vessels. The things to think about ahead of time. Is towing the right option? Do you have the right equipment to tow? Is the crew trained to tow and what to do? There are 2 tow methods that must be perfected. The towing behind. Tow mostly starts in this way to travel a distance easily enough. And an alongside tow. The tow is mostly finished off this way, enclosing a maneuvering situation into a close harbor situation. To get the tow line onto another boat, it depends on the weather and sea conditions. You have two primary options: coming alongside, passing the tow line. We'll talk about passing line shortly enough, or crossing a boat's T. If you don't want to get too close, by crossing the boat's T, you're coming across the bow of the other vessel you're going to pass a line to, and you're able to stay a little bit distance away, and it keeps your distance apart from each other. So those are two techniques that you need to perfect in passing a tow line. So getting a line over, don't stand, a couple safety items, don't stand at the bite of the line, aim correctly. Anybody want to give me an idea where you aim for?
Past the individual you're going to.
Past your target.
Past your target. Alice, you also had something you were saying?
Upwind.
Upwind, yep. So past your target, ideally
Across the bow.
across the bow. All of them are right answers. Be prepared to retrieve and heave again. So if you've never passed a line before like this, my suggestion is you practice it, and practice it again and again and again. It looks easy enough in a picture, but they'll get into the habit of trying it. You'd be surprised how difficult it can be if you're not used to doing this thing. So it's a great thing to practice. Go in the lake or go in the river or wherever you're doing your boating and actually practice tossing the heaving line. Good places to hook up the tow line: the trailing stem eyes, the ski towing post, the transom eyes, or Sampson post. Again, looking at the red, those are all answers to your questions in your booklet. Towing lines go under the railing and not over them. Why do you want to go under the railing and not over them?
You don't want to pull them off. You don't want to break the.
Precisely. The strain of the line will rip the railings right off the boat. Tow lines go to back-plated cleats or deck hardware, not decorative ones. What's a back-plated cleat? Can somebody tell me?
It has a plate underneath.
Precisely. So underneath the deck, any of the hardware that goes through the hull to that cleat has got a back plate to it, which distributes the weight load evenly. Otherwise, it's just a decorative piece of hardware on board the deck. And if you put any strain on that line, it's going to rip the hardware or the cleat right off. And if it's under strain, that now is going to be a hard piece of metal come flying back to you on your boat and become very dangerous to your boat and your crew. Thoughts on safety. Periodically check the tow line. Looking for chafing and frayed lines. Store the line so it dries. Check the line during the towing so it doesn't chafe or break. A line under tension can break. Do not stand in the way if it breaks or it has the potential to break. Everybody needs to have their PFD on. That includes on your boat as well as the boat that you're towing. Towing operations. This is a slow speed operation. You're looking for steerage and control, which is important for you to have. It's best to tow into the wind and seas. It creates a catenary in the line, and that absorbs shock in the line. So in the picture, you can see we have the Coast Guard boat towing a vessel. We have this little dip in the line. That's called a catenary. So if all of a sudden the boat that's being towed or the Coast Guard boat separates and has increased distance between the two vessels, that catenary acts as a shock absorber that is there. So you're not going to have some jarring of the boat. So it's ideally you want to have that little bit of a dip in the line that creates an easy ride for everybody. And typically you want to go into the seas and into the winds for control. It makes it a lot better ride for everybody's sake. Maintain the watch of the towed line and the towed boat at all times. How many boat lengths do you go back? It depends on the seas. It depends on the vessels. From where I've been for the Coast Guard areas I've been on some very small inland lakes, and it's a much shorter line as opposed to on the Great Lakes, which is where I did most of my boating. It's a much longer line. It depends on several factors. There is no hard and fast rule. To Ideally, when you're towing a boat, you want to tow off a center area or off a bridled area to distribute the weight load on your vessel as well as for control. You don't want to tow off in just one single point, either on a port or a starboard side, because that's going to create a situation that causes a control issue where the vessel you're towing is now going to sweep off to one side, possibly, if there's no control issues. So by a series of setting up some a set of bow lines to various cleaches, you can have some fair leads that are there. You can set up, if you're towing a sailboat, you can hook the tow line to the main mast of the boat that you're towing if it's a sailboat. There's all sorts of options that you have available. Depends on what equipment you have on your vessel that you want to do. Ideally, you want to have yourself in step. If you go up one wave as a towboat, you want the boat you're towing to go up the wave on there going up. You want to be in step. You don't want to be out of step where you're going up and they're going down, or you're going down and they're going up. That will create a tension in the line, and it quite possibly will create a snapping line situation. You want to avoid that. Mastering the alongside tow, you need to know what lines to use and the positions that they have, as well as to how to position the boat. So, which boat is doing the towing, the top boat or the bottom boat?
The top boat.
The top boat is doing the towing, right?
Yeah.
So the reason you can tell is look at the position of the stern. If you're going to tow alongside, you want your stern to be well aft of the boat that you're towing stern. The reason for that is the thrust of your propellers. You don't want it to be interfered by their boat being astern of your boat, so that you get full control. In towing alongside, you need 4 lines. You need 2 breast lines and 2 spring lines. The breast lines are, in the Coast Guard, we number them 1, 2, 3, and 4. The number 1 line goes from bow to bow. The number 4 line goes stern to stern. And the number 2 and 3 lines are breast lines that go from bow to stern and from stern to bow. Which lines are the driving lines? Which lines are providing force to do a towing? Anybody want to give me some thoughts on it?
Well, line 2 is going to be your tow line, and line 3 will be your backing strap and the breast line.
Springs, yeah.
So this spring line here, the forward spring line, the number 2 line is the line that is doing the towing. It is pulling. Pardon me, I got a bug in my throat. This number 3 line, which is this spring line, is the braking line. It is the line that will slow down this vessel. As you do the braking maneuvers on your boat, it will slow this boat down because it'll control it that way. So the correct positioning and how well these lines are tied will dictate how well you're doing the maneuvering. Again, fenders are being very important, or where the placement of the fenders are. Let's talk about man overboard. So everybody's met Bob. If you've been a crew person, you obviously have met Bob at this point in time. Bob can never get enough practice, okay? Give Bob all the practice he wants. He will never say no. So, steps. Yell man overboard. Point and keep pointing at the man overboard. Sound the emergency alarm. That should be done in the first 0 to 3 seconds. Why do you keep on pointing at the man overboard?
You always keep your eye on the person overboard so that you can have orientation as to where they're located.
That is correct. The person who yells man overboard and is doing the pointing, that is probably the only person who has eyes on the individual. And at no time do you take your eyes off the person in the water. You are the only person who has contact with that person. So you have one job, and one job only, is to be the lookout and keep contact visually with the person in the water until such time as the helmsperson or the coxswain or whoever is on the wheel, whatever it may be, says, I have them. And you have a verbal confirmation, I see them, and the two of you agree that, yes, that person is the one that you're going for. So, the steps. Yell man overboard. Sound the danger alarm. Press the man overboard on the GPS. Contact others by VHF. call out Mayday or a DSC assistance call. Throw a flotation device for assistance to the man overboard. Those are all the things that should be done in the first few seconds. Next, now that you've established the situation on board, you can now approach the man overboard, communicate and determine what injuries they may have. You haven't picked them up yet. Why is it important to do a communication?
See if he's hurt or not.
Yep, see if they're hurt or not. You're doing a visual inspection of the area. Why do we want to inspect the area before we do a retrieval?
There's no obstructions.
There's no obstructions around, no wires or ropes that we can get ourselves tangled in. You go in and do a pickup and retrieval, then you treat for injuries and you cancel the Mayday. So there's your logical steps that you're involved with doing a man overboard. All the crew needs to become proficient at what is done at the different positions on the boat, such as the helm, the forward watch, the aft deck watch, and of course the coxswain. Bob can handle all the drills you throw at him. Everyone needs to know how to do each position. Why is it important on board your vessel that each person knows the role of every other person on board that boat to do a man overboard?
Because any one of those individuals could be the man overboard.
Precisely. So the big key here is the wrong attitude that can prevail on board a crew is the coxswain is the only person that touches the wheel to drive the boat. Well, guess what? If the coxswain is Bob that has just flown overboard the boat, geez, nobody else knows how to do anything. That's not a very good situation. So a best trained crew rotates through and everybody takes a turn or an opportunity to understand how to do something on this very important role, because you will never know at what given time you have to step into a different role on board that boat. Do you move her alongside a man overboard or bring them to you? Okay, you're getting close. How do you do it? Well, I've got a couple things. Use the wind and its power to effectively assist you wisely. So if you have a high wind situation, you may want to have the situation where you're windward of the person in the water and then use the wind to blow you down to them. But if they are in the water and upwind of you, are you going to have them blow down onto you, or are you going to blow away if you're leeward?
I can blow to you.
I'm sorry, David, I didn't understand what you said.
Have them blow towards you.
Yeah. So ideally, your boat's going to carry more of a sail effect and blow towards the person, as opposed to chances are you'll blow away from the person if they're in the water. Remember, they have no sail effect only at all. They are affected only by the current in the water and not by necessarily the wind in the water. Remember, when somebody's overboard, how big of an area do you think they portray to you in the water?
Not much.
Not much. It's about the size of a basketball.
So Peter, would you suggest, because this question comes up all the time, do we pick the victim up windward or leeward? And I think that it depends on the sea state and the wind. And what advice would you have on that?
It would depend on the sea state and wind, and it depends on the boat you are on. Different boats will handle differently in that wind and sea state. So know the effect of your own boat and how it handles in the wind and sea state, and you can practice this very easily if you have a man overboard pole, put it in the water if you have a windy day and see what effect you have as you come up to it, both windward and leeward, and see whether or not which ones gives you better control for retrieval. You're only going to know for sure by doing practice with your own individual boat. And I think that any number of different boats are going to handle it so much differently. So, what's the draft of the boat? What's the wind sail area of the vessel? A lot of factors, but though again, practice is going to make perfect, and you would handle it differently with different wind and size of the vessels in different cases. How to get a man overboard on the boat? Each boat is different. Think about what's available. Some people have a stern ladder, some have a SWIT platform. You may have to jury rig a situation like shown in the picture here. Now that you come alongside and you've gotten them alongside, the final goal is get them in board the boat. Let's talk about fire. So anytime you're going to approach a boat on fire, you want to do it from upwind. Why do you want to do it from upwind?
Heat and
So you
smoke
don't get
on you.
That's right. So you have if you're downwind, you're going to have you're going into that situation where you got the wind blowing the flames and the smoke to you, and some of the smoke can be very hazardous to our health. We don't want to do that. Speed is important when we're dealing with a boat on fire, but not at a compromise of safety. So haste is good, but don't forget about safety being important. So procedures of a boat on fire. If it's on your boat, put the fire downwind, call out Mayday, put in a DSC assist, slow to steerage, come to a stop. If you don't already have your PFD on, now's the time to do it. Fight the fire as able to, prepare to abandon the vessel, stay upwind of the vessel, and at all times keep a track of the people that are on board your vessel. Count the noses that you have. So if you had 7 on board beforehand, you want to make sure you know where all 7 are at any given time. If a fire takes place in a confined space, close the hatches, doors, and vents to keep oxygen from feeding the flames. If it's on another boat, approach from upwind. Make sure everyone's wearing a PFD if they're not already. Again, the Mayday relay, DSC assist, get the firefighting equipment ready if you have any. Slow approach, minimize the contact of the boats. I make reference to a nose-to-nose contact. Evacuate the others and get clear. If you're going to evacuate anybody from a boat, why would you approach and go nose-to-nose if that allows you to have everything else being the same, such as being upwind and everything else? What's the point of nose to nose? Or bow to bow, if you wish.
Keep the engines away.
Yep, precisely. So think about where the possible fire is going to be. It's more likely it will be centered towards the engine area, which is where you have the high risk of so many different things that could be on fire. And again, by going nose to nose, you are minimizing the contact between the two vessels, and it allows you to back off very quickly once you have everybody off the vessel, and you can very quickly pull away and go into a safe situation. So you also, the idea is minimizing the amount of contact between the two boats at all times. Let's talk about the 4 components of a fire. The 4 components are heat, oxygen, the fuel itself, and the chemical chain reaction that is occurring during the fire itself. There are 4 different ways that you can attack a fire to put out a fire. When it comes to the heat, using items that are cool to remove the heat, smothering the air supply, which is the oxygen, removing the fuel source, that was the fuel, or interrupting the chemical reaction that is going on. So those are the 4 things that are the components and the 4 ways to fight a fire. And how do we do that? So let's take a look at the 5 classes of fire. There's a new class that I didn't realize. So typically aboard a vessel, we have Class A fires, which is a combustible material such as wood and paper, cloth and rubber, trash and plastics, the stuff that we make up of our everyday life. We have a Class B fire, which is typically flammable liquids, solvents and oil and gasolines and stuff. We have a Class C fire, which is a typically energized electrical equipment, such as wiring, controls, motors, and machinery. Types A through C are typically the fires that you would expect to see on board a vessel. So let's focus on those. To fight a fire of Class A, what is your main fire fighting?
Water.
Water. Now, I'm going to ask the question, would water be used on a Class B or Class C?
No.
No. Negative.
No. Why would you not use water on a Class B?
Spread the fuel.
Spread the
Precisely.
flame around, yeah.
That's right. So you've got it in a concentrated area, you throw water on it, you're going to push it out, and you now have the fire spread across a wider area. Why do you not want to use water on a type C fire?
Because it conducts electricity.
Precisely. So you're going to exaggerate the situation even more, exacerbate the situation even more by introducing water into a Class C type fire. So typically, what type of chemical or firefighting equipment would we have for Class B or Class C?
Dry chemical.
A dry chemical. So those are the types of firefighting equipment. So which is the one that is common amongst for all three of them?
The dry chemical.
A multi-purpose dry chemical, precisely. Okay.
ABC. Yeah.
An ABC fire extinguisher, correctly. So for those who have never, sorry. Okay, so for those who've never used a fire extinguisher, if you ever get the opportunity to do it with a demonstration from a fire department somewhere, take that opportunity. It's a wise moment in your life to do. First off, you pull the pin, you aim it at the base of the fire. Why do you aim at the base of the fire?
Put off the oxygen.
That's where the fuel source is.
That's where the chemical reaction is.
There you go. It's a chemical reaction is down at that base. You squeeze the lever. Why do you sweep side to side?
To cover the whole area.
Cover the whole area. So
you stay at the base. You stay at the base. You're sweeping from side to side at the base. You're not going up and down, which gets you away from the base.
There you go. So sweeping side to side. Now the big key. How long do you think that fire extinguisher is going to last?
About 10 seconds.
Yeah.
There you go. It's a very short period of time, and different sizes will give you a different length of time. The main answer is you do not have very long. So very effectively, you need to recognize that when you pull the pin and squeeze the lever, now is not the time to think about, well, how do I operate this thing, and have the chemicals coming out of the thing going, what am I doing with this thing now? Think ahead of time what's involved, because you don't want to lose the very few precious seconds you have where the fire extinguisher can be used to value. So damage control, dealing with the issue before it gets out of control. So be prepared. Carry spares, what you can on board the boat. Carry items and tools to plug any holes that you may have that you can return to shore. Small rounded shape items can be used to be plugged if you're prepared. A hole can be very effectively plugged from outside if it's a very small little hole, by putting a little plug inside and just pushing up against it. Sails and large blankets can be used to stem the flow of water into a hull. You can also set up where you have shoring and bracing put into place to buy you some time to also put some plugging into key. The goal here is to buy you time to get your vessel back to shore so you can get it out of the water safely. Items that you can be used to patch are the same items that you learned in a previous class on what makes up a boat itself. So the various things that are used in manufacturing a boat, small little sections of those can be used as patches. Emergency procedures. Be prepared. Is your equipment checked? What condition is your equipment in? Outdated items need to be replaced. And do visitors know what expectations they may have to deal with? Dewatering. If you're dewatering, make sure the dewatering pump is in working order. Check for loose debris. Discharge over the side rather than into the hull itself again. Facing downwind. First off, let's ask the question, why are we discharged over the side? I mean, it's a pretty obvious one, but
We don't want the water back in the boat.
Precisely. We already have enough trouble. We don't want to have a Three Stooges moment by where the water is coming back in the boat. And why do we want to do it facing downwind?
So it doesn't blow back in.
Doesn't blow back in, precisely. If you're going to tow, go slow. Bailing the boat. If you're going to bail the boat, you make sure you're plugging the holes beforehand, or else it's a fruitless adventure upon your part. And it's best done if possible from outside the boat if it's a small little vessel. Okay, tell you what, it is 7:34. Let's take about a 5-minute break. This is going to buy me some extra time to do the next little section. So I have it as 7:35 my time. So it's 7:40. Let's get back together again, okay?
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah, everybody take a quick powder and we'll see you in a minute.
Okay.
Tomorrow, not today. Okay?
So Bob,
Yes,
I just emailed to you. I was hoping to put it in the chat, but though it doesn't allow me to, I just emailed you 2 documents to share with everybody else in the class. And I'll describe what they are. One's a booklet that has navigation, or the nav rules in it. It's a little bit maybe easier to read than it is the big book. And I also just added it's like a 3-page document, and those are my study notes when I took the nav test for coxswain. And it's just sort of like a cheat sheet. If
Okay.
people want to use that, they're welcome to.
I've sent those out to all the students.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to put it into the chat and it won't let me put it in a file.
Very good.
When did you, I don't remember seeing those. You sent those out in a recent
The last,
week?
Oh,
in the last 14 seconds, yes, I just
That's-
sent.
yeah.
There they are. There it is.
Very recently.
I appreciate that because I'm preparing to take that test myself. So
Yeah. Okay, 7:40. We were just chatting. I've asked Bob to help me send to everybody 2 documents. One is it's a little booklet that describes the rules of the road. I thought it was kind of a neat little reference book to have. The second document that you have is actually off of my coxswain study notes. We have to pass a navigation rule test to begin with, and it's also something we have to do every 5 years, I think. And those are my cheat sheet notes that I have. So if you want to use those as reference material or create your own, please by all means do so. So I'm going to preface this little discussion by saying, don't make this one section get you too worked up. It is, be honest with you, a lot easier than what people make it to be. So by using if you were to create your own little cheat sheet like I did and look at it once, one day, look at it again 2 days later, and look at it again a third time 2 days after that, then take the test, you'd have no trouble mastering this test portion of the rules of the road. You could probably also pass the navigation test as well if you wanted to take it as well. So let's talk about the navigation rules. First off, we have to decide, are we underneath U.S. inland rules or international rules? Because both of them apply around the United States. So where does it apply for inland versus international? Well, the inland waters are defined by demarcation lines that are boundary lines that separate the navigational waters from the international waters. And those are well defined ahead of time by reference material as to which waters are inland waters, which waters are international waters. Typically, this diagram here gives you a little bit of an idea of what is inland waters, and anything that's in the little blue, which is typically the rivers and the inland lakes, are inland waters. The Great Lakes follows a special rule. It will be an inland waterway unless it conflicts with Canadian law. And there's not very many situations where conflict with Canadian law will make it international waters. The Mississippi River will have also a few special cases that apply to it for navigation as well. But though typically for the most part, you're dealing with inland waters, but there's a few cases you're going to have to learn as we go through this, what are international waterway rules. So the main source is this book here, the Navigation Rules and Regulations Handbook. There are currently right now 41 rules, 5 annexes, and multiple amendments and associated provisions in that document. I think it just also had a new revision that came out a little while ago, but it is the official book that you want to have. So let's talk about what makes up that book. It deals with lights, day shapes, sound signals, sailing rules, markers, and buoys that guide us and others in where we can go, where we cannot go, what are we doing, what others are doing, what others' intentions are, and what our intentions may be. That breaks it down into a nutshell. So know the rules. So going through the rules, and we'll cover a lot of them. Rules 2 through 3 deal with definitions and concepts. Rule number 2, there is no exoneration from consequences or neglect. Compliance with regard to dangers and special circumstances is required. Basically, it means that you are responsible. If you have neglect, you're in trouble. Number 3, definitions. What's a power vessel? Power vessel is a vessel using motors or propelled by machinery. Again, carrying on from the last chapter, if it is written in red, it's an answer from your in-book test question book. Sailing vessels using sails only. Special rule here. A sailing vessel using sails and engines simultaneously is deemed a power-driven vessel. You can't hide behind your sails if you also are using your motor. A vessel engaged in fishing, a fishing vessel, is dealing with nets, lines, trawls, but not trolling lines. So the guys with the downriggers off the back of their boats are not officially fishing vessels. A vessel that is not under command is unable to maneuver. Doesn't mean the captain's not on board, it just means that the captain can't control it. It's underneath the controls, just the seas, the winds, and the current. A vessel that has restricted ability to maneuver is because of the nature of work. It could be laying or servicing pipeline or navigation aids, dredging or surveying, launching or recovery of aircraft, mine clearing, or towing where the tow can move. A vessel constrained by draft is the draft or depth of the width of the water constrains where that vessel can go. Underway means a vessel is not at anchor, made fast to the shore or ground. Okay, so those are your definitions, what define each vessel, because what each vessel is defines what they can do, what others cannot do. So let's talk about not under command. It's at the mercy of the winds and seas. A restricted ability to maneuver, dredging, a navigation buoy handling vessel, a launching recovery of aircraft, or there's a picture there, a pretty good definition of a constrained by draft. That boat can't go sideways. It's very much restricted to that one channel area, and it cannot maneuver from one side to the other to get out of the way of some other boat. Rules 5 through 10 deal with during all conditions of visibility. So, rule number 5, you need to have a lookout. At all times, there must be a lookout on your vessel. Rule number 6, what defines safe speed? You need to take into account the following things. What is the visibility? What is the traffic density? What is the maneuverability of your vessel? The night and background lights that are occurring, the wind, sea, and current that's prevailing, and the draft in relation to water. So those factors must be taken into account to determine, are you following a safe speed situation? If there is radar involved, you also now have to consider the following. Is it efficient? What is the radar range? What is the sea state for the weather? Are small vessels, ice, etc., are non-detectable? And the quantity and locations of other vessels. That all defines your safe speed. Rule 7 deals with the risk of collision. You need to use it at all times to determine if you have a risk. If you have to assume at all times, it is always going to be present. It's funny the way the rule is written. So if you have a radar, you can't rely on scanty radar. You take a look at compass bearings. If a bearing does not change, a risk of collision exists. If the compass bearings are in that situation, a stand-on vessel must take action if the giveaway vessel appears to not give sufficient action. Just because you have the right of way, if the other guy is not going to move, you must take action yourself. Okay, did everybody understand that one?
Ed
Yes.
Stone here. What is scanty radar?
Scanty radar, it could end up being a too much sea clutter, too much rain clutter.
Okay, I've seen that. I've seen that before in a rainstorm.
Yeah.
Okay. I know, thank you.
So rule 8, action to avoid. It must be positive and in ample time. You can't do it at the last second and change by 1 degree if you should have reacted 10 minutes ago and changed 20 degrees. It must be readily apparent. If you're going to change course, I need to see you change course and know that you're changing course, and it must be very visibly understood by me that you are changing course. The course change alone may be sufficient. The goal is to pass with safe distance. Check continuously. Go to slow or stop and take early action. There are 3 definitions of when vessels interact. Vessels could be meeting, crossing, or overtaking. Those are the definitions in the rules as to how vessels can meet each other. So when you take a look at an overtaking vessel, overtaking occurs if a vessel cannot see the side lights of the vessel ahead of itself. So I got a picture here of 2 vessels that are underway. I've got side lights, I got port light and starboard light. If I am overtaking that vessel and coming up from behind, I know I am overtaking them if all I can see is their all-round light from behind. If I cannot see one of the 2 side lights, I know I'm overtaking them. I'm coming directly up behind them. Okay, so that's the definition of overtaking, is that if I cannot see side lights. In a narrow channel, you want to stay to the right-hand side. Vessels less than 20 meters or sailing vessels shall not impede a fishing vessel. A fishing vessel should not impede. Crossing channels should not impede, so you can't go directly across the channel back and forth. Power vessels overtaking rules are to be followed. And if you're coming to a bend, you need to sound the alarm, and you need to avoid anchoring in a narrow channel. So you can't anchor, you can't cut across at an angle, you can't impede other people that are in the area. Fishing vessels don't have special rules. Okay. Traffic schemes. You have entry and exit rules, and you stay in your lanes. You follow the crossing lines of where they're allowed. You have inshore rules and separate. You have inshore zones, separation zones. So you have several zones that are involved as you identify where the traffic scheme is. You have caution near a termination area. You have to avoid anchoring, and a fishing vessel cannot impede anybody in that traffic scheme area. Anybody less than 20 meters or a sailing vessel cannot impede somebody in a traffic scheme. So it's a highly congested area. Rules 12 through 18, vessels within sight of one another. So we have a special rule for sailing vessels. This one, if you're not a person who does sailing, it's sometimes hard to understand a little bit. So you take a look at the 2 situations. If 2 sailing boats are headed towards each other and the wind is on the port side of one boat and the starboard side of another boat, the boat that has the port side is the giveaway side, and the port that's got the wind, the sail on the starboard side, is the stand-on vessel. It's easier to understand the wind direction of the picture down below. Any vessel who crosses another vessel when they're on this, what's called the same tack, anybody who is now upwind of another vessel, you're robbing the wind from that sailboat, which means they can't maneuver very effectively. That means you have to give away to that other boat. All right. Overtaking. Overtaking is 22.5 degrees abaft of the vessel. You must keep out of the way, otherwise no crossing conditions that occur. So if you're overtaking, the vessel you are overtaking has the right of way until such time as you pass that magical point of 22.5 degrees abaft of the beam. Then you have a crossing situation. If you have a head-on situation, which is a near reciprocal course, you can see the masthead lights and both side lights. Inland, rules, typically you turn to the right. Both vessels turn to the right and you pass very safely. If you had in the inland rules, this is where the Mississippi River comes in particular, a downriver vessel with current is a stand-on vessel to an upbound vessel. So why do you give way to a vessel coming down with the current as opposed to one going against the current?
They
have less control.
Precisely. The one,
Maneuverability.
yep. So the one that is coming down with the current has less control than the one going against the current. Crossing. You hear the word also burdened. So a giveaway vessel is the burdened vessel, is the one on starboard. So in this particular case, as you're coming across, the boat that's coming across is on your starboard side. That's the vessel that you give away to. And I put down there only because of how the angles show on this picture versus the one before. 90 degrees plus 22.5 equals the 102.5 degrees that's in this picture. If you remember the crossing rules of anything that is now past the 22.5 degree mark of a bath is a crossing situation. In this picture, it shows it as 112.5. But you'll get an idea of where the 90 plus 22.5 is for the 112. So different ways that artists have created the diagram. So action to a giveaway vessel. You must keep out of the way. So if you are the giveaway vessel, you got to get out of the way. If you're on the stand-on vessel, you need to keep your course and speed. You may take action if needed, but don't go to port. So by keeping your course and action, your speed, it allows the person who has to react, which is the other vessel, they know that you're doing what you're doing. You've got constant speed and course. It allows them to adjust accordingly. You will take action only if the other vessel is not going to do anything, but at no time should you turn to port, which is why you're going to now go into danger by turning to port, because you're turning towards and into them. So if you're going to do anything, turn to starboard, but not to port. But also you don't want to keep on changing your course and speed at any time, because that's confusing the giveaway vessel. And it's hard for them to determine what the heck you're doing, because they have to keep on altering course at any given time. So responsibility between vessels. So a power vessel, PV, stays clear of a not under command, a restricted maneuverability, a fishing vessel, and a sailing vessel. A sailing vessel stays clear of a not under command, a restricted maneuverability, and a fishing vessel. A fishing vessel stays clear of a not under command and restricted maneuverability. A seaplane stays clear of all vessels. Under the international rule, a not under command and restricted and maneuverability stay clear of all vessels which are constricted because of the draft. A vessel with a restricted draft situation is to navigate carefully. So you see the pecking order that now appears. Rules 19 through 31 conduct the vessels in restricted visibility. So rule 19 deals with travel at safe speed, due regard to prevailing conditions. You need to have your engines ready, detection by radar, and assume that hazards could exist and you need to avoid them. Avoid all actions that cause issues. You don't want to give conflicting ideas of what your intentions are to other vessels. You need to react to sound signals to slow and to avoid. So in the diagram here, it gives you an idea of where you can turn and where you should not turn. Rule 20 deals with lights and shapes. So the lights must go on between sunset to sunrise, plus any time that there's restricted visibility. There should be no conflicting lights. and shapes are done during sunrise to sunset. So the definitions of lights. You have a masthead light, which is a white light of 225 degrees, arcing at 22.5 of either side, except for less than 12 meters, must be fore and after the line. Side lights are green and red. Stern light is white. A towing light is yellow, which is the same as the stern light. An all-round light is 360 degrees. The definition of a flashing light is 120 flashes a minute. And special flashing light for inland is yellow for 50 to 70 flashes a minute. So those are kind of definitions of what those lights are and where they appear on the boat and what visibility they should have. So Rule 22 deals with the visibility of the lights. How far away can you see them? So for vessels that are less than 12 meters, which is the very bottom row here, the masthead light has to be visible from at least 2 nautical miles away. Side lights have to be 1 nautical mile. A stern light is 2 nautical miles, and a towing light is 2 nautical miles. For vessels between 12 meters and 50 meters, 5 less than 5, up to 3, 2 meters, 2 meters, and 2 meters, and vessels greater than 50 meters, long 6 nautical miles for the masthead, 3 nautical miles for the other lights. So the bigger the vessel, the more distance and visibility that these lights must be on board the vessel.
Peter, did slide 70 skip over? It looked like it might have jumped or.
There's 70, 71, 72.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry, it scared me for a minute. Power vessels greater than 50 meters underway must display the following lights: a masthead light, then a second masthead light abaft and higher than the first one. So if you ever wondered why do you see 2 masthead lights, it's because the boat is greater than 50 meters. Yeah, somebody got a question? No, okay. So here's a picture down below. This vessel here is greater than 50 meter. The second masthead light is higher. So this is the view from the starboard side. This is the view headed on the bow. You got the second light that's higher above. So you know it's a power-driven vessel and it's greater than 50 meters in length. You got the different combinations of the lights that can occur depending on how the boat is built. You can have the green and red side lights being either side or built into the bow area. You could have either an all-round white light, or you could have 2 lights depending on how the configuration is. So it depends on the manufacturer how these light configurations are built into the vessel. So there's all different methods that are involved. So long as the combination matches up with the scheme of these light visibility and arcs, that's the goal. When you come to pushing and towing, Rule 24, there's different rules that are involved. And typically you have, again, what are you doing with the size of the vessel? You can end up having, again, a day shape. If you have a vessel of certain length, it's a cone, pardon me, a diamond shape that's there. You have the towing light that is visible, which is identical to a stern light. If it is greater than a certain amount of length, and it's a non-composite, you have 2 towing lights that are there. You have different rules for pushing and towing. You have about 8 of them altogether. And again, it depends on the combination of how the tow is set up, what lights are turned on and what lights are not turned on. And during the daytime, what you're going to show, and typically it's going to be a cone that's on. In the Western rivers and waters specified for the Coast Guard, certain masthead lights are not required for a vessel pushing ahead or towing alongside. So Rule 25, sailing vessels and vessels under oars. So there are certain mnemonics that are quoted. Red over green is a sailing machine. So the combination of the 2 side lights, On a sailing vessel, you can get red over green if it is up on the top of the mast. So red over green, if you see it, that you know it's a sailing machine. If a person is under oars, they can hold up a lantern, and that's identical to the light that's displayed for a small little vessel. During the daytime, if a boat's under sail, you have the apex down triangle if it's propelled by machinery. So if it's under way as a machine powered boat, they have to put this up. I'm going to be honest with you. The likelihood of you seeing a sailing vessel under motor with this being displayed is probably slim to none. I don't think most people would know that they have to have that. I don't think I've ever seen it. So Rule 26, fishing vessels. They do not have a masthead light. So green over white is a trawling tonight situation. A red over white, fishing at night. At daytime, they have the two triangles, apex to apex, being displayed, which means they're fishing. If it is a trawler greater than 50 meters, they have to show a second masthead light. If the gear is greater than 150 meters behind the vessel, the shape plus the white light has to be displayed. Rule 27, vessels not under command or restricted ability to maneuver. Red over red, the captain is dead. It's underway. The vessel is moving, but they have no control over it. So if you see a vessel with two red balls suspended on the mast, that's daytime. Stay out of their way because they have no control over the boat. Or if at nighttime, if they have two red lights up on the mast being displayed all around red, it means they have no control. You want to stay out of their way. A red, white, red means restricted ability ahead. It means that they're doing something, which could be a diver could be down. It could be dredging. It could be all sorts of things. They have very little ability to maneuver all around. A green over green is safe to cross on this side. So it is a special situation where the vessel is restricted, but they're showing the side of which you can pass safely on. So at nighttime, if you see this, then you see two green lights on one side, two red lights on another side, you're safe to pass on the green light side. Or if you see two diamond shapes on one side and two balls on the other side, you're safe to pass on the diamond side instead of the ball side. They
Peter?
do not have, yes?
Don has a good question. What is the difference in a trawler and someone fishing?
Trawlers hauling nets.
Yes, trawling is hauling nets.
Where the nets are, they could be off to the side versus behind the boat.
That's correct. So in this case here, this could be a situation where they're hauling in the nets on this side of the boat, which means they don't want any traffic on this side of the boat, but it's okay to pass on this side of the boat, on the green side.
Could that also be dredging?
It could be dredging. It could be all sorts of things. It could be recovering of buoys. So it's restricted in its ability to maneuver. It's got to stay in where it is. It can't move. You must move for it. So if they are not making way, there will not be any running lights. There'll be no masthead light and no anchor light. Rule 27, continued on a little bit. 3 greens in a cross, mice clearing boss, which is the mine clearing. So if you see 3 greens, you really want to stay away from them. 3 reds in a row, there's no room below. Is a vessel constrained by draft? It cannot move, or during the daytime, it's a solid bar shape that's being displayed. Pilot vessels, a white over red, pilot is ahead. When anchored, it'll show only the anchor light of a regular vessel. When not on duty, as a normal sized vessel. If a vessel is aground or anchored, red or red, the captain's dead. Can't maneuver. It's aground. And again, depending on the size of the vessel, different lights are displayed. Seaplanes are wind over ground vessels, exhibit the lights close to a power vessel, and you just want to stay away from them. If somebody saw the picture or the quick snippet of the movie of the power vessel and the seaplane in Vancouver Harbor from 2 months ago taking off, you know why you want to keep away from them. Sounds and light signals. Definitions. We use the length of a blast to determine different types of signals. We have a short blast and a long blast. A short blast is defined as a blast that lasts 1 second long, and a prolonged blast is something that lasts 4 to 2 seconds long. Rule 33. If a vessel is less than 12 meters, they need some sort of sound signal device. If a vessel is greater than 12 meters, it needs a whistle. If a vessel is greater than 20 meters in international waters, it needs a whistle and a bell. And a vessel greater than 100 meters in international waters, it needs a whistle, bell, and a gong. In inland waters, it only needs a whistle and a gong. Rule 34, the light signal lasts 1 second. The visibility in inland waters is 5 miles, or international waters is 5 miles, and inland waters it is 3 miles. If in radio contact, sound signals are not required. If a radio contact is not possible, then you must use sound signals. There's a difference between how sound signals are used between international and inland. In international, the way it's said is, I am doing something. I don't have to ask your permission. I am now doing this. I am now turning to port. I'm now turning to starboard. I'm not asking your permission over it. I'm just doing it. In inland, it's an intention. I plan to turn to port. I plan to turn to starboard. It requires a response in kind that says, I understand you're going to do that. By all means, you go ahead and do that. Being very polite. So, danger or when in doubt is well recognized as the signal is 5 or more short and very rapid blasts on what the sound signal device you have. So let's take a look at what we have. Under sail alone, underway making sound, underway making way, a sound signal. 1 prolonged blast, 2 long, short, interval every 2 minutes. So this is where you have visibility issues. Interval every 2 minutes. Lights you have underway, not making way. 1 prolonged, 2 short every 2 minutes. If you're under sail and power or power alone, if you're underway, it's 1 prolonged blast every 2 minutes. If you're underway but not making way, which means the engines are running, it's 2 prolonged blasts every 2 minutes. If you're at anchor, a ringing sound for 5 seconds every minute. And if you're anchored, you don't have to make a sound at all. And signal status is anchored. Every 2 minutes, you have to make a sound signal. A couple key items here. 5 vessels that never show a masthead light are not under command, a fishing vessel, a sailing vessel, a pilot, or being towed. 4 vessels that can't impede in a narrow channel are a sailing vessel, a vessel under 20 meters, a crossing or fishing vessel. 4 vessels turn off the running lights and when not making way, not under command, restricted under maneuverability, a fishing vessel or a trawler. 4 vessels that don't show any anchor light, a fishing vessel, a trawler, a dredge, and a diving boat. And same sound underway or anchor is a restricted maneuverability or a fishing vessel. And the last item for sound signal is, this is an exam or a question in your booklet, is what is the sound signal for an emergency? It's a continuous sound nonstop of a foghorn or a whistle, or at 1 minute intervals with a gun or some other explosive. All right, so the best way to handle this for your exam is the material that I've given you. Go over it multiple times, as I said. You have that available to you. The test is only going to have at most 6 questions that deal with the navigation rules out of that 50 question test out of this entire chapter that you have. You're going to ace this thing. Really, I have no doubt that you're all going to ace it. So you want to keep calm, ace the test, enjoy it. So any questions? Promise Bob was keep it underneath 2 hours.
What's the best way to get onto the test site?
Oh, to get onto the test site? Have you ever been onto the National Test Center before, Ed?
Yes.
Okay, so to go into the National Test Center, you go in there and you will see all the different tests that are there, and you will see the one called AUXSEA. And you just
Correct.
select it.
Okay.
And it will take you there. And Bob's going to show you how to find it.
All right, Peter, I got a question. I was
Yeah.
looking to go onto one of the tests earlier, not this one, but another one, and it wanted an enrollment code.
Oh, so you were in the Moodle site. Okay, different story altogether.
What, Moodle?
Yeah.
And how do I get the?
Bob, are you going to drive to show them first the NTC to find this test?
Can you see my screen, Ed?
Yes, I can.
He already did.
What, Jerry?
No, I said you already told us about 5 times.
Yeah, well, some people weren't able to be here, so let's look at it again. You could use
Okay.
Bing. I don't work for Google. If I did, I probably would have my own boat right now, bigger than the one I got. But so you can go on Bing or Google and just type in auxiliary NTC. All right. I'm just going to hit enter here.
Okay.
And it's going to give me these choices. These are my choices. So the first one is the most promising one.
Mm-hmm.
So you click on that.
Got it.
You're going to need to know your password from the so I'm already logged in here. So but you're going to need to use to get access to this the password from auxiliary directory. So
Okay.
initially, for those newer members, this is a little bit more of a mystery. But for newer members, setting up a password for auxiliary directory, as long as you're current in AUXSTAT, as long as the auxiliary has information about you, it will ask you, do you want to change your password? And you're like, well, I can't get in. And so you would click yes. And it looks like it's the hardest thing in the world. But once you change your password, you immediately get access unless there's some login problem for. So what I did here is I clicked on take a test, and this is what popped up. And it says you need to log in. So in my case, I type that, and then you want to put in just your member number. That's why it's like your social security number. Your auxiliary member number comes in over and over again. So you put in your member number, and then you put in your password. And mine is Peter Graham is awesome. That's
Well, that ain't going to get you far.
That'll work.
And so then I entered it. And so right now it's thinking about letting me in. Boom. So now I'm in. So you're going to need to know what your password is so you can get access. But look at all the tests that you can take here. And the other thing, and Peter touched on this, is you can take the test and like here, you would click on, see the word C down here. It says AUXSEA seamanship exam. Somebody said, I can't find it. I can't find it. I said, well, did you scroll all the way to the bottom? Oh, I found it. So you may need to scroll down to the bottom to find it. And then you would click on this is a hot link here. See how it's blue with an underlining or whatever?
Right.
You click on the hot link and boom, it says, all right, good luck. Remember, it's an open book test. The things to remember is you don't go back and forth with the navigation keys because that will kick you out of the system. So just use these buttons down here that let you go forward or backward, gives you more instructions here. Any questions, Ed? Because I don't want to, everybody else has already seen this. Any questions?
All right, because I was going to I was going to the BQC2 test, which has nothing to do with this course. And it wanted an enrollment code. And I don't know where to get an enrollment code.
Well, such things can be had, but let's keep you on the track for, are you kind of new, Ed?
Excuse me?
Are you a newer member?
No, I am not.
Oh, okay. Well, you do need codes for some other classes, but for this class, I don't want to throw you off the trail by talking to you about enrollment codes, because those, again, are also available if you know where to sniff around to get them. But for now, we're just going to talk about how to take the,
All right, I can sign in
Yes.
and get the AUXSEA very easily then, not a problem.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. So what I'm going to do here is, Peter, I'm going to go ahead and go over the answers to the questions.
Yep,
Which
by all means. Yep,
touched
let's go
on.
through that.
Let's go here to chapter. See if I can figure out a way to get down here real quick. I guess I can.
I always have to go to the menu and hit that page number.
Mhm. There's a right way to do this, and then apparently there's going to be mine. Here we go. All right. So what I'm going to do, and it's everybody's favorite part of the class, is I'm going to call your name and ask what you wrote down for the answer. Now, we had a student that thought he wouldn't have to do this, and then he didn't do very well in the test, and he told me I was not a good teacher, which you guys are working hard so you can do well in this test. But if you think you're going to fake it or wing it, it's not going to work out great for you. So we want you to do well in the test in one way. Peter went through all the study questions here. That's chapter 6, sorry. But we're going to do this again for chapter 7. Well, the figuring out how to fix your boat when you got a problem. The book does a nice job on it. All right, so I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of the list. And some people said they're on with their friends, and so I'm going to try to pick on both of them because I know they like to be picked on. All right, one more. All right, Neil M. Number 1. To assist in riding a sailboat, the crew should unmute yourself, Neil. You there, Neil? Usually the last person on is in the bottom of the list. Don't hear it. Jim Flatchy here. Can you unmute yourself? Number 1. Jim F.
Oh, there. Okay. I think I'm unmuted now. Stand on keel.
Stand on the keel. Good. That's one step. Haul in the sails. And then hold on to the gunnel because you're trying to flip the boat back over. Good. Missy Mercer, how about number 2?
Sorry, Bob, it's Neil. I'm back. Sorry.
All right, Neil, number 2. Welcome back. Number 2,
Yeah.
Neil.
In preparing to refloat a stranded vessel, one of the obvious things to consider is the wind and the current.
Good. And they, for the book, they talk about the state of the tide also. And of course, some of us, on Lake Michigan, we don't have a tide, but really for that one, they're kind of looking for the tide because on the coast where the tide is out, if the tide's getting ready to come back in again, it might not be that hard to refloat it. So you may just want to wait. So they're really looking for that. Missy, how about number 3? Missy Mercer? You can pass,
Hold on, I just got here. Got back here. Which one is it? What chapter are we in?
We're a chapter. I'll skip you. We'll find someone else to pick on.
Right.
Rich Hurd, number 3. Unmute yourself, Rich.
What could happen if you throw the engines immediately into reverse upon going aground? You might suck sand up from astern and deposit it into your boat, adding more shoal beneath you, and also suck sand into your engine.
Yeah, you could do more damage than good. Excellent. And Peter did a great job explaining this. Jerry, how about number 4? Jerry K.
A stranded boat can use an anchor as a kedge to help pull the boat free.
Right on. Now, Peter,
But
if you want, what's that, dear? Yeah, very good.
But then I found something else that says then haul in anchor. Does that have anything to do with it?
I think hauling in the anchor, is that to use it as a kedge, you think, Peter? Is that what
same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
Is that it's a question? Is
Thank
that
you.
when you use the anchor as a kedge, is that the action of using the anchor and then hauling on the anchor line to get you off? Is that
Yes.
is kedge an action? or is kedge a thing?
Kedging is the action.
Yeah, kedging is the action. So you got to remember that your anchor is typically going to be on your bow, but though that's not, and the direction or pull against an anchor line is on your bow. So you're going to have to put your anchor in a different location to get off. It means you're going to have to put your anchor to the stern and pull against that to come off. Or come on, or put your anchor off to the side and kedge against.
And is that called kedging?
Kedging is the action.
Okay, thank you.
So, and Peter, that was a good question that someone brought up is, well, that you generally don't want to anchor from the stern because you have less freeboard there, but would you still use your an anchor and kedge from the stern?
You can kedge from the stern because the reason for going in reverse to the direction you came in is what's in that direction because you came across it already. You don't know what's in front of you, so you don't want to keep plowing ahead into the shoals or into the whatever it is that's in front of you. If you're going to go anywhere, you're going to go backwards the way you came or off to the side.
Would it be worthwhile to have two anchors?
You could.
Extra one?
You got to remember how big some boats you may be. If you got room to carry two, go ahead and carry two.
Thank you.
Good. I think in some of the classes we talk about a Bahama anchor, which if you're going to have, and that's a whole nother subject, which I don't think the book gets into at all, but it has to do with trying to control the motion of the vessel in the event of a changing the tide change or the wind changes or the current. Right on. All right, Gail Henry Murray. How about number 5?
Gail.
Gail?
She says when you make an approach to a stranded boat, that depends on the wind and current.
Wind and current?
Wind and current. There you go. Good.
Thank you, God.
Tuesday, how about number 6?
Okay, when attempting to tow off a stranded boat, use the trailering stem eye or ski towing transom eyes or other secure fastenings such as Samson post.
Good. And why are those things sort of the best things to use? Do you want to throw us just a generalization or not really?
Yeah, well, because something about them being reinforced. They're not decorative, and so they will be more sturdy.
Right on. Fantastic. Where are we now? Valeria, how about number 7?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good. 7, if a stranded boat is held in place by suction, how can that suction be broken? The crew would move from side to side and front to back to rock the boat.
Right on. Very good. Charles Lang, how about number 8?
You should always approach a burning vessel from upwind.
Excellent. Keith Rollins, number 9. You there, Keith?
Well, I could do Keith's because
Why can't Keith do Keith? You there, Keith? Have you?
I'm only kidding. I just know him, that's all.
Are you there, Keith? Oh, okay. Keith, she's picking on you. Don't put up with that. Rolando, how about number 9? You there, Rolando? Can you unmute?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good. You're good to go. Fire away.
Okay, I'm gonna read. When assisting a burning vessel, blank is essential. Thing is, I read this stuff, but I can't remember it often because I'm so busy multitasking while I'm reading, which is bad, but this is what happens. This is how my days has been going.
No worries. So you want to pass? You want me to pick on Jennifer instead of you?
No, I really just the answer would be fine. It would refresh my memories.
Oh, well, I'm going to see if Jennifer already knows. Jennifer, what is essential?
The speed is essential.
Yeah, get there as fast as you can, but like Peter made very clear, you're not reckless, you're not careless, you get there as quick as you can safely. Brett, how about number 10? Brett A?
Hi, sorry. A Class A fire.
No, 10, number 10.
Oh, 10, I'm sorry. The four sides of the fire tetrahedron are oxygen, fuel, heat, and the chemical reaction.
Excellent. Steve Corus, how about number 11?
Yes, a Class A fire consists of ordinary combustibles, and water should be used to extinguish it.
Excellent. Michelle, 12. Michelle G.
Class B fire consists of flammable liquids and foam. CO2, halon, or dry chemicals should be used to extinguish it.
Good. And I had one class where somebody said A for ash, B for barrels, C for circuits. So that's sort of a mnemonic.
I
Diane,
have a question on that.
go ahead.
Why, and question 12, are they called flammable liquids? The book says it's inflammable liquids, and that doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's a funky word. Some people call them inflammable. That means they can be in flame. So it's somebody's English class. They didn't just call it flammable, but it's
So-
the same.
So flammable and inflammable is basically the same thing.
Yeah, if I guess it'd
Yes.
be I guess it'd be unflammable.
Unflammable is different.
How about not flammable?
Yeah.
That would be
Okay,
different.
good. Thank you.
All right.
Diane D, did I ask you about 13 already? I'm sorry. Diane, you there? Darren? I don't know if you can answer. Michael Spytek, how about 13?
Well, a Class C fire takes place in a electrical equipment. And halon, carbon dioxide, and dry chemicals should be used to extinguish it.
Right on. Very good. Everybody understand that okay? I'll read it back on. Oh, he was a little garbled on my side. So it's electrical equipment, CO2, halon, or dry chemical. I don't know if you could all understand. I sound a little garbled on my side. Thank you.
Could you, while you're on these, could you just go back to 12? I think I'm confused a little bit because it's two different parts of the question.
Okay, so a Class A fire,
Inflammable liquids, right?
flammable liquids, and
Gasoline.
yeah, it's poorly worded. You're absolutely right. It should say comma, and what blah 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 are used to extinguish it. So the four things you
Yeah.
can put it out is
Is
CO2.
this CO2? Okay, that's where I was confused. Okay, thank you.
It's a volunteer group. I'm sorry. That's all we got. Good. Any other questions about ones that we passed that somebody might have missed? Michael B, how about number 14?
Question 14, what type of hole can be plugged? One that is small and has rounded shape.
Very good. Edward N, how about 15?
Plugs and patches are most effective when applied from the outside of the hull.
Right. It would seem that why are you getting outside the boat, but that's just the way to go.
That's where the water pushes it.
Yeah, the water forces it in. There's pressure from the water pushing it in, but you'd want to get it in there as tight as you could. So
On 12, it's the or is anything that will smother it. Is that the or? CO2, dry chemical, foam, or anything that will smother it?
Well, halon is what they're looking for. So
okay, all right.
Foam, CO2, halon, or dry chemical.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, don't be shy about asking. That's all fair. Dave Knapp, how about 16?
List some of the materials that can be used for an emergency patch. Anything you can find in an emergency. Obviously, wood patches are best, but rags, towels, anything's better than nothing.
Yeah, in the old World War II movies, they would use a mattress. Anything it can do to plug that hole. Good. Nigel, how about 17? You there, Nigel? Can you unmute Nigel Smith? You have to hit the unmute button. Alice, are you there, Nigel? All right. Alice, how about 17?
The anchor that is set out, I'm sorry, I couldn't get to it fast enough. The anchor that is set out immediately on grounding is called and I had that kedge word, but I bet that's wrong. Is that incorrect?
They are looking for catch. Yeah.
Okay, that was good. All right, good. And then the act of using it to get the boat free is called kedging, which is what we just talked about, right?
Right. It's sort of fascinating stuff. Rick Wisely, how about 18?
When using a portable pump, be sure the outlet is over the side and the discharge is facing downwind.
Excellent. Dennis, how about 19, the last one for chapter 7?
A fire that takes place in a relatively confined space, you should close hatches, doors, vents, and ports and keep oxygen from feeding the flames.
Right on. Very good. Any other questions about 7? Anybody want me to go over anything? Good. You guys are doing really good. And I hope you enjoy this part. I kind of enjoyed the show and tell, even if it's can be a little tedious at times, but I think it's fun for everybody to pitch in and help with the class. All right. How about number 1 in chapter 8? Jesus, Pavan? Yeah, you there, Jesus? Go ahead,
Yeah,
sir.
I'm there. I'm there. I'm looking at the test. Give me a second. Number 1. Okay, I got it. The U.S. inlet navigation rules are applicable inside the demarcation lines separating the inland and international waters.
So the way to remember this word, it's an unusual word. We don't use it every
It
day.
is, yeah.
It's a mark. So they demark on a page. So it's a demarcation. Demarcation line.
Demarcation, okay.
We don't
Demarcation
use
line.
that word. Demarcation line. Very good.
Yeah, I have a question. I have a question around that one.
Fire away.
What determines the demarcation line? Is there a standard distance or what?
No, it's whatever they want it to be. So the demarcation lines are defined by the government and published in the codes. So if they want to move the demarcation line 3 miles up the river or out the river or down, they just go ahead and say, tomorrow we change the rules.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it's nothing magical about it.
It is set down, but it can be a little arbitrary. And for us in the Chicago area, it's sort of fascinating. There's a spot on the Des Plaines River where you go from the international to the inland. And it's just how they pick that is up for anybody's question, but it's marked. So it's a demarcation. Somebody just said, all right, here's the line. And we've all lived with that, and it can change.
I have a crazy question about that, which maybe somebody can tell me. On my marine radio, I have US marine channels and I can switch it to international channels. Do you switch it to international channels at a demarcation line? When would you switch to international marine?
Well, channel 6, Peter, you want to handle it? Well, Peter's from Canada. Peter, you're international. You better answer this one.
Anything in the US was confusing to us in Canada.
Say that again?
Anything in the US was confusing to us in Canada.
Well, I have Canadian on the radio too.
Yeah, typically we always kept it to the US as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So
thank you.
And the one thing this guy's saying, this is a very keen segue into our AUXCOM class, which deals with single sideband, which is we use the high side here in the U.S. for our radios. So it's channel 21 alpha, which is the high side, versus in Canada, I think they use the low side, which is just, it has to do with single sideband and having more. And that's a whole comms thing, but I don't want to get everybody confused here. But no, that's a fascinating topic. Bob Farkas, did I ask you number 2 yet? How about number 2, Bob?
Power-driven vessel is any vessel propelled by machinery.
Excellent. Bob Fires, how about 3?
A sailing vessel using both sail and engine simultaneously is a power-driven vessel.
Absolutely. You will see that again. Richard, how about number 4?
Richard? Underway means that you're traveling.
So that it's a little confusing. So if you're not, let's say you're out on a lake, let's say, and you're not at anchor, but you're holding still in the water. However, you're not even anchored. Technically, you are underway, even if you're not moving.
Oh, from the current.
Yeah. So what they're looking for on this one is at anchor, on the shore, or aground. So even you're out in the middle of the water and there's no wind, it's calm, your boat isn't moving, but because you don't have your anchor down and you're not tied up to the shore, you are technically underway. So that's sort of interesting. Who else wants to join in? Who hasn't had? Ashley, how about number where are we? 5. Number 5.
Sure. Side lights shown an unbroken arc of the horizon of 112.5 degrees from dead ahead to 22.5 degrees abaft the beam on each side.
Excellent. Does everybody understand that? Very good. Jim Whipple, number 6.
Power-driven vessel less than 12 meters in length, when underway at night, shall exhibit a masthead light and a stern light plus side lights.
Excellent. Anthony B, how about number 7? You there, Anthony? Ray, let him use the microphone. Unmute. Ray, you told me he was there, Ray. Now, if you're just saying he's here so he gets attendance, I'm not going to count. You there, Ray? Uh-oh. Jacob D. Reuter, number 7.
Small boat can display the hand, like a hand torch or lantern to prevent collision.
Good. So what they're looking for number 7 here is electric flashlight or a lighted lantern. So
yes, white. Should be white.
Yes, good. Paul B, how about number 8?
Number 8. Okay, on the western rivers and on waters specified by the Coast Guard, masthead lights are not required for a vessel pushing ahead or towing alongside.
Right, and those mnemonics that Peter used are very helpful. Was it white over yellow? I'm a pushy fellow. Yellow over white. I'm towing tonight. So those are kind of helpful too. James G, how about number 9?
At night, a vessel not under command will show 2 all-around red lights, vertically spaced when they can best be seen.
Right, red over red, the captain's dead. Mike Lalonde, how about number 10?
Wow, thank you for pronouncing my name right. I know you're not a telemarketer.
You need some warranty on your house right Number 10.
Vessels engaged in fishing by day must display a shape consisting of 2 cones point to point vertically.
And one of the points made by one of the people that once taught this class, if you see a boat and it's got all sorts of lights on it, stay far away from it. Even if it's green on one side and red on the other, who knows what they're up to, but give them lots of stuff. But your answer is the book correct answer. Right on. Ray Bellware, are you there? Can you unmute? All right, Richard Hurd, how about number 11?
Short blast is a blast of about 1 second duration.
Excellent. Arthur Sullivan, number 12.
Prolonged blast is a blast from 4 to 6 seconds.
Excellent. Richard S., the 13.
Okay, state of visibility, traffic density, your vessel's maneuverability, and the state of wind, sea, and current conditions are factors in determining vessel positioning, I would think.
No, that's not what they're ganging for. David, do you have a guess on this? David F.?
No.
All right, what they're gunning for here is Say
Safe
speed. There's a lot of reasons why you don't want to be going fast, you know, whether it's congestion, and Peter did a great job explaining this. But all these things are important because if you're coming into the port area and there's boats all over the place and you're trying to be like, I don't know if you all saw that movie PT 109, JFK in the early part of the movie, you know, you don't have good enough control. So slow is pro. Coming into an area where there's a lot going on, you want to be safe, just take your time. Nick K, how about 14? You there, Nick?
Okay, 14, every vessel must use all available means to determine if a risk of collision exists.
Excellent. And so those rules, all those rules that we talked about tonight have to do with boats that are close together. If you're on one side of a big lake and the other one's on the other side of the lake, there's no risk of collision. What you're doing isn't that critical. But if you're in a potential for a collision, all those rules come into play. Rob K, how about 14?
14, every vessel must, how about 15? Aren't we on 15 now? We just did 14.
I'm sorry, 15, you're correct.
The navigation rules recognize 3 types of encounters between 2 approaching vessels. There would be meeting, crossing, and overtaking.
Excellent. Nick F, how about 16?
Okay, a vessel in doubt must give the danger signal 5 or more short and rapid blasts on her whistle.
Excellent. You will see that again. Right on. Ed Stone, how about 17?
Okay, under inland rules, 2 short blasts mean I intend to leave you on my starboard port side.
Starboard.
Starboard.
Passing starboard. No, you go to your starboard.
Yes.
No, that's one blast.
You're going to leave them on your right. So one is like normal highway driving in the US where you're passing them on their on their port side. But if you're gonna leave them on your starboard side,
that's 2 short blasts means you're going the wrong way. You're going to your port.
Correct.
So what's the answer?
it's starboard side. Did I get that right? Starboard, Peter?
No, say that. What's the answer for 17?
Starboard.
That's what I said.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought somebody said port. So
No, you're all right.
So in the old days, and Peter, you can chime in anytime with you guys know where port and starboard came from? At one time, boats were small enough that you only had a ramp that came down off of one side of the boat, and on the other side you'd have your rudder sticking in the water, your steerboard. And so that's where steerboard came from. It eventually became starboard because everybody would use the left side of their boat for porting to get their goods off their boat when boats were much smaller. But anyways, while
we were just jumping back and forth. The answer for 17 was what I said, starboard?
Yes, starboard.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, would you not also say, I intend to pass you on my starboard, or is that the wrong way to think of that?
So if you would be putting them on your starboard side, then you're going to pass them on their port, right?
That's actually the way the rule is written, the second way. It's not written the way it's on the question. The rule is written two blasts. I intend to pass you on your port side. That's how the rule is written. So that is not written correctly, but it is right.
Good.
The answer for 17 is port.
Starboard.
It's starboard the way they're writing it here, but it's that the rule doesn't read like that.
It's a little confusing.
In the book.
2 different ways of looking at it.
I gave you the right answer anyway. Thank you.
Right on. How about Ron Noor? How about 18?
You just moved it on me. If the bearing of the approaching vessel, red green light, a risk of collision exists. I don't have the right answer, but red green light. How's that?
No.
They're talking about 2 boats. They're 2 boats coming at each other.
Right.
And if you're on this boat and you're looking over here, and as you're moving along, this boat doesn't seem to be changing, that means you guys are getting together. So it's, there's a
Does
risk of.
not change.
Does not change. Do you understand that now, Ron?
Well, I understand that. I'm going to say something on the one we just discussed before that the answer here was starboard. There's two ways of reading that. If I'm approaching you on your starboard side, or I'm leaving you on my port side. That's the confusion with that answer.
Yeah, so there's two different ways to word that, but if you take
It's
the
the same
time to,
thing.
But if you want to pass the test,
Well, I did.
no bragging, this is not a brag fest. Ramesh, how about number, I think it's 19, right? Are we on 19? I'm sorry.
What was the answer to 18?
18 is
It's not changing.
Does not change.
yeah, if the bearing of the other vessel, the approaching vessel, does not change very much or appreciably, then that's a sign that they're probably going to hit you or could be coming in to hit you as you're getting closer. Because you're in this boat over here and you're looking over there, and that guy doesn't seem to be changing to fall behind you or to get in front of you. That could mean you're doing the same speed and you're coming right at each other. Does that make sense? All right, Ramesh, you there?
I think the verbiage you're looking for stays the same.
No, does not change appreciably. That's exactly how it is right out of the book.
And we might see that in those words again. So that's why we kind of hit that pretty hard. Ramesh, how about 19?
Yes, under inland rules, in a crossing situation, the vessel that which has the others on its own port side is the burden vessel and must keep out of the way of the other.
Nope.
So they're looking for, if you're in this boat and you're going this way, the one that's on your right is the burden vessel, and if you look over there and you see him coming and he's on your starboard side, that means you have to get out of the way because he has the right of way. So as you're in this boat and you're coming like this and you look off your starboard side, I'm doing this backwards because I'm doing it into the camera, and you see another boat coming in a risk of collision, you are the give way vessel of the burden
We're
vessel.
not seeing you anyway, sorry.
Oh, if I turn my camera on, they're probably much more cool, huh? Oh, I'm sorry. So let me see if I can figure out how to do this. So I can't figure out how to do it. That's all right. So if he's off your right side and he's coming at you, he's got the green light and you've got the red light, if that makes any sense. Does that make any sense? Yeah, if he's off your starboard side, whoever is to your right, he is the one who's got the right of way, and you are the give way vessel. Okay. Paul, let's see, who haven't I picked on?
So the answer was starboard?
Starboard, right on. Uh-huh. All right. Karena, how about number 20? You there, Karena? Here's a Karina.
It's all right. Either way is fine. At night, the overtaking situation exists when the vessel ahead cannot see either of the sidelights of the vessel ahead.
Right on. Very good. Who haven't I picked on? Does anybody not get picked on yet? I don't want to skip anybody because I know you guys like to answer questions.
Pick on me again. It's Missy.
All right, go ahead, Missy. Are you going to answer this time?
Number 21. When two sailing vessels are approaching one another so as to involve the risk of collision and both have the wind on the same side, the vessel which is to windward shall keep out of the way of the vessel which is to leeward.
Right. Yep. It has the more wind in its sails, so it's more maneuverable. Does that make sense? These are tricky. These are not easy to know, but it is. You are correct. That answer was correct. Everybody get that? These sailing ones are tricky. Richard Levitt, how about 22?
Sure. When in or near an area of restricted visibility, a power-driven vessel making way through the water must sound one prolonged blast at intervals of not more than 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Good. Remember that. You're going to see that again. Nigel, can you unmute yourself? Are you there, Nigel Smith?
Yes.
Number 23.
Restricted visibility, a vessel at anchor must, at intervals of not more than 1 minute, ring the bell rapidly for about 5 seconds.
Right on. And final one, Don Lynch, how about 24? Go ahead, Donald. You there, Donald? Are you taking a powder? Dennis B, how about 24? You there, Dennis?
Continuous sounding of a fog signal apparatus would indicate an emergency or distress signal.
Good. Did anybody miss any of those?
I just need clarification for number 7, because I did hear, I know it's a electric flashlight, but I didn't get the first part of that.
So sailboat.
It is, I had sailboat. Okay, it is, but it says of a sailboat or, oh, okay.
It's power. It says power. It's
Or
power
rowboat.
boat. They can show lights of a power boat. That's supposed to be
Okay,
power.
thank
What,
you. I just
what was the answer to number 7 again?
7 should have been power boat, lights of a power boat, and have handy a flashlight or
Lantern.
lantern.
Of a power boat, not a sailboat.
I thought it should be sailboat.
The book says
Sailboat.
sailboat.
Power-driven vessel.
Page 134, Chapman.
Okay.
How about
Well,
number 18?
Number 18 in chapter 8, they're looking for does not change.
How about 13?
13, safe speed. Safe speed. All right, which one we're looking for when using, what number we're looking for back? Sailboat? Which one was that?
7.
7.
7.
Small boats propelled by oars.
Small boats propelled by oars may show the lights of a sailboat. Yeah, it's not a powered boat because it's not being propelled by a motor. So
No, it may show those lights. It does not need to. It may show those lights.
So, and sailboats have, Peter went over this pretty well, have specific lights. Remember, Peter, was it green over red? No, I'm sorry, green over red, right?
For what?
Red over green sailing machine.
Red over green sailing. Yeah, red over green is a sailing machine.
Yeah, so red over green, a small boat propelled by oars may show red over green. So the answer should be sailboat.
Negative.
No, is that wrong, Peter?
No, they can show side lights and a stern light, which is power boat.
Okay.
So
It's in the book.
It's in Chapman's.
Not
as
making it
long
up.
as it shows a white light, you're okay.
Yep.
Okay.
It
So
must
there's
show
no
a
answer
white
for
light.
7.
What was that?
Nobody knows the answer for 7?
It's
that
in
is number 7.
Yes, I do. It's power boat.
In Chapman's the 65th edition, page 134 at the bottom.
Exactly, page 134.
Sailboat, which
It
is
says
what's going to be on the
sailboat.
test probably.
Yeah, and what does the sailboat require?
It says a small boat propelled by oars may show.
Have a handy what? Handy flashlight?
Yeah, but what's the configuration of a sailboat?
Oh,
So-
well, you have to go to that section. I don't know.
So that's okay. I belong to a rowing club, and we have to have a red green stern light and a small white aft light that we put in the cockpit. So that's the same configuration.
Well, we got to go by the test.
But look at what the sailboat requirement
Well,
is.
it says a sailboat less than 7 meters long should carry normal side lights and a stern light.
There you go.
Okay, what was the answer to number 4? On the way, a vessel is not anchored, made
No,
fast.
not anchored. At anchor, ashore, aground.
Right. Not
Okay.
anchored, made fast to the shore or aground.
Right on. Good. Anything else, Peter? Anything else you want to share?
Nope. Guys, you're going to ace it. You really will. Remember, I think the rules of the road can get people into the mud pretty fast. You're only going to have about 5 questions pops probably out of all those things. So don't get too deep into it. Make sure you spread yourself across all the other chapters, and you're going to ace the test.
Okay, can I just say that before I did the questions, I really didn't understand a lot of it. And then after your talk tonight, I was able to really understand it, except for number 7. Thank you.
So,
Yeah, did a very good job tonight. Thank you.
So you all should have received the attachment, the 2 attachments that Bob sent out to you. Don't use mine. My suggestion to you is to use the guide, which is the second attachment. Create your own cheat sheet document that's like 2 pages long that you can reference very quickly if you want to have rules. If you take the rule number, put it into Google, like Google's your favorite thing to go to right now. You can very easily create a picture, and a lot of the pictures that you saw in my PowerPoint presentation tonight come right off of a lot of the stuff that you can find very easily by Googling it. Create your own little cheat sheet for 2 pages, and you'll have all the answers you're going to want to have of anything they're going to throw at you. And if you ever want to go on into boat crew and eventually into a coxswain, you're going to want to have that stuff anyway.
Will this be multiple answer primarily, or will it be fill in the blank?
There'll be a question and 4 answers.
And
Bob, are you going to send a copy of the recording?
Yes. And
Okay.
Bob, you just sent me a message. Could you just send me an email, Bob Parrish? Send me an email to remind me that I've somehow your email has gotten dropped off. So with that in mind, let's all say thank you to Peter by giving him the thumbs up on the very bottom there, the reactions. If those of you who have been here before, appreciate the outstanding job. And Paul, you're upside down. I'm sorry. Is that you in Australia? Oh,
That's my joke.
Thank you, Peter.
Well, everybody have a real good night and good luck on the test.
Thank you.
All right, team. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Here tonight,
All right, thank you.
And we will look forward. Last class is next week. I will be teaching, so you know it's going to be a really fun event. We will have this. Thanks for being here tonight. Any other questions before I hit the stop recording button?
Yes, Bob, this is Jim. Had
Go
a
ahead, Jim.
question on chapter 7, on number 17. I know we were spending a lot of time talking about kedge and kedging, but in the book they talk about the act of using it to get a boat free is called haul off, HAULOFF. Can you clarify?
I think that's probably a nickname for it, but they are looking for kedge or kedging.
Yeah, it's like potato. It's like potato, tomato, tomato.
Yeah, there's
Okay,
always
so
one.
either, the one
Same
they're
stuff.
looking for is kedging and not haul off.
Yeah.
Right.
Right on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Somebody joked about flammable and inflammable earlier tonight. Same thing.
Hey, Bob, can I just ask a question not regarding this course, but future courses?
You may.
I'm just curious, do you offer the AUX weather as well?
That is a challenging class, and I'm going to guess I will probably drag my feet until doing that till next year. It is a fun class. Send me an email and I can send you the links to the one I did last year. It's not an easy class.
Yeah, it's not an easy read either.
Yeah, it's kind of right. But you know what? Send me an email. Say, Bob, could you send me the links to last year's AUX weather class, and I'll send it to you.
That'd be great. I really appreciate it.
Happy to do it.
I'd like that too, Bob.
I can't do it for you, Missy. Sorry. Oh, send
I
me
need an edge.
an email. Yeah, send it. It's a hard class, Missy. It's not an easy class, even with someone there to answer your questions. So,
Right.
other questions.
Are you doing
stop.
AUXCOM?